We're going to talk with Scott Williamson, who is director of the Virginia Chorale, about their final concert of this 2009-2010 season. It is called Perpetual Light, and it is an offering of two requiems, or I guess maybe properly requiem, but in any case, Scott, welcome. We're always glad to have you with us.
Dwight, I'm always glad to be here. Thanks.
Especially to talk about music, and especially to talk about music that most people aren't familiar with. Now, you're pairing two requiems on this one program.
That's right. We're doing one of the great settings of 16th century music by Tomas Luis da Victoria, who was one of Palestrina's students. So he's one of the giants of the Renaissance. This is music that would have been performed in the cathedrals, perhaps even in the Vatican itself. It was written for the wife of King Philip of Spain. And it uses Gregorian chant. It's music that, if it's not recognizable by name, will be immediately recognizable by the sound and the aura that it creates.
Right. And to point out, for those who may not know, a requiem is a mass for the dead and has a very traditional form to it.
That's right. And this is one of the earliest examples of a requiem mass that is a complete work in and of itself. We have fragments of requiems that predate Victoria's, but Victoria's was among the first.
Mm-hmm. And you're pairing that with something from, almost our own times, for several hundred years later.
Right. Remarkably, the year 1922 was a great year for wonderful a cappella choral music. Vaughan Williams wrote a mass.
Right.
Frank Martin wrote a mass. And Ildebrando Pizzetti, who was one of the great Italian composers of the day. The leading critic of the day referred to Chopin's sensibility for the piano, Ravel's for the orchestra, and Pizzetti's for the chorus. And this requiem will reveal exactly why that is the case. It is a stunningly beautiful piece of music.
And I listened to it the other day, and I thought to myself, why isn't this performed more often?
Well, I think it's not performed more often because professional chamber choirs, like the chorale, are among the most rarefied and specialized of groups. How many professional chamber choirs do listeners know? Right. Really. Right. And that's why, because it is beyond the scope of the average church choir, which would be the next group in line to perform it. Right. It's not the purview of the symphony chorus or the community chorus, being an a cappella requiem that is in anywhere from 4 to 12-part harmony. That's not something that's usually done by a large group. It's done by a small group of specialists.
All right. We're talking about the concert, actually 3 presentations of this final concert of the Virginia Chorale season. May 16th at the Chrysler Museum, part of the Virginia Arts Festival. That's a 5 p.m. performance this weekend. May 22nd at Churchland Baptist Church in Chesapeake, an 8 p.m. performance. And again, as part of the festival, as the festival wraps up in Williamsburg, May 30th at 3 p.m. at Williamsburg Presbyterian Church. Scott Williamson directing the Virginia Chorale and these 2 requiems. The link between these 2 is interesting. As I was listening to the Pizzetti, it opens almost with plain song.
It does, and it actually literally quotes the Dies Irae chant, the chant that Berlioz literally quoted in his Symphonie Fantastique, and that composers have used and quoted ever since it began appearing as the basis of that chant. Again, even though Pizzetti is a name that is unknown and his requiem might be a piece of music that is unknown, it will sound very familiar and accessible.
He was deliberately looking back to the Renaissance.
Exactly. And he was trying to move away from the hyper-emotionalism of Puccini and the generation of Verismo opera composers to which he was a successor. And he was very much interested in music of the Renaissance. So his music has a retro feel, if you will. He was from the Generazione dell'80, the generation of the 80s. And in our day, we associate the 80s with a different kind of retro.
Right.
So,
if I can dwell on the Pizzetti, because it's a fascinating work. Does he, like Verdi, call out the fire and brimstone in the Dies Irae section?
He does a little bit, but since we're in 8-part a cappella, it's quite a different thing from having a symphony chorus of 100 and an orchestra of 80 players. But yes, there's a bit of that.
But that is traditional.
That is traditional.
Yeah, very much so.
And very after these a cappella requiems, it certainly, I think, was codified as the way to set the music dramatically from Mozart's time on.
And I'm curious as to the reactions of your singers to this work, because or both of these works. I suspect that these pieces were new to them.
They are new, and the singers love the music, the entire program, and there's also a very special and personal connection. The program was planned over a year ago, but of course we're still reeling from the loss of our dear friend Lisa Costin, who was the anchor of our alto section. So to perform a piece that it features 2 requiems is a very personal and moving experience for us, and we trust it will be for our listeners as well.
Indeed. 2 requiems, the one by Tomas Luis de Victoria and the one seldom heard by Ildebrando Pizzetti, paired in this Perpetual Light concert, 3 concerts, actually, 3 presentations, May 16th, 22nd, and 30th, by the Virginia Chorale with Scott Williamson directing. Scott, thank you very much for coming in and for the music. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dwight.
Thank you.